Welcome back.
Yeah, what's up?
This is 21 now?
No,
Should
no,
be
no. I think it's episode 19.
19.
Episode 19. Like we counted like I think two more from last week's.
Yeah,
Was when I was editing, I got 18.
okay.
So today is 19.
I'm just waiting to hit that 21 mark because then we've, hit a
Yeah, it's
massive
gonna be
milestone.
it's gonna be a big milestone for sure. I mean, in terms of consistency alone, that's gonna be huge. But the amount of guests that we got so far and like how many people we interacted with on this podcast is just amazing.
We just got to keep it rolling and keep on getting more and
Yes,
more.
sir. Yes, sir.
We're just taking a bit slow at the moment because obviously you had your little Morocco hiatus for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I went to Morocco for 2 weeks, well, a little bit more. But yeah, it was an amazing trip. Like I think we covered a bit on last week's episode.
And we went a little bit into it, but not into more so the people and the side that we went to more like a basics area of it, just the ground level. I kind of want to go a little bit deeper.
Yeah, that exactly. That was a bit for this week's episode. I wanted to dive a bit more deeper into it and kind of like discuss more the events leading up to Morocco, that trip, and also like how it's tied to like spirituality, purpose, and like, just things aligning, in my life personally. But yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. I'll be going a bit deeper. That trip, initially, the purpose behind it, like it was organized by uh, one of one of the a Sufi sheikh, which is like a kind of like a master, like a teacher, you can say. A lot of cultures, religions have this also, like, in India, China, when comes to spirituality. And yeah, that was basically it. So he organized this big conference in a city called Wazan, which is like a really, really like beautiful city in the mountain, one of the mountains in Morocco, like up north. And the whole like title of that was basically on Moroccan spirituality and adding a cosmic dimension to it. So kind of like it was an international like gathering. There was many people, not just Moroccans, but outside of Morocco that came to attend to that conference. And it was like pretty much like you get to see kind of the Islamic point of view of spirituality, and you actually get to experience it, with that group, and meeting new people along the way from like different backgrounds, different cultures. There's like some people from Denmark, some people from Spain, some people from Germany, some people from like, even within Morocco, there were people from different cities, different backgrounds, like some from like the south, like close to the desert, some people from the west coast, close to the Atlantic, and like, it was a like a gathering of different people from different backgrounds, different walks of life, you know. So that was also pretty impactful. And yeah, the conference was translated in English too. There was like an English translator, like a live translator there. So it made it easier for people outside the city, outside the country, to understand what was happening. And yeah, they were the main, from what I remember, the main like thing that impacted me a lot in that trip was the they call it dhikr, which is like remembrance, right? Like remembering God, remembering like how he does things in your life, how he sometimes like it's not just like our human effort every day that like we're just doing bit by bit, building the blocks of our lives, but we also have to see like kind of like as you said, mentioned earlier, Daniel, like figuring out your own purpose, kind of seeing like things that are already placed in your life, and you just have to do like just recognize first what you have in your hands, and like doing the effort towards putting those things together so that they compound, like they multiply later on, pretty much. So that was basically the point of like that conference, is like seeing like God and witnessing God, and like kind of like counting your blessings, following like the prophet's way, and then and just meeting new people along the way through doing the same thing, people who are gathered for that kind of spiritual journey, you know? So that was basically it. That was like one of the, for me at least, like given my background, I told you because I work in aerospace, and the fact that they've added like this cosmic dimension to it, for me, it was like amazing. Like it was just like we're building stepping stones towards like that future where, like, as a human civilization, forget war, forget like conflicts, forget like all these things, we're actually like kind of like aligning ourselves like in the symphony of working towards a brighter future, towards space, pretty much. Like, like as I said, the company that I'm working for, we're trying to help us again to land on the moon and do like these lunar missions and try to like push humanity further out there. And yeah, just giving us more aspirations, more hope, like the fact that we're also creating like a new, well, not just like the whole like human initiative for space is we're trying to like reset the whole like space station, right?
Yeah.
Like as I mentioned, and like to kind of get us further out there. And it just takes like every part. Not, I'm not just talking me, this is just one person working for the space industry, but there's thousands of people out there from different backgrounds, different perspectives. They're not even, some of them, they probably are not even as spiritual, not even, but the fact that they're just positioned there, and that's like their role that they have to play in this whole like picture, you can say, it's pretty, it opens your eyes on it.
Yeah. And then, like, let's just say adding that cosmic layer, how does that, because you said you're obviously one member of many for the space industry, how does the cosmic impact of that journey impact you? Obviously, you said, like, for the greater good, but on more of like a spiritual side, how does that impact you?
For me, like it's kind of like everything, like the people that I met there is like kind of like seeing thousands or if not millions of versions of people, like just like coming together, and like now you get to see like one person, like after generations of humanity giving life and dying, giving life and dying and all that, and then just coming together, and that now I actually get to, like at this age, experience and appreciate the differences, and like the time that it took for me to be able to see that and witness that, and like experience that,
Yeah.
that just that alone was like, it was an out of this world experience, like. And then the fact that I'm like contributing in like the space industry, and how much effort it took me to get here, and still it goes to show like it's not all about, sometimes it's not just all about yourself. It's like now you get to see like other people involved, even though they're not even necessarily working in the space industry, but the fact that they're coming from a different walk of life, and like from a different, totally different perspective of life, and like you get to see them there, and they're like, oh yeah, like for example, this one German guy, all he does is like as a living is like coffee machines, like everything to do with coffee machines. Like he probably has a business on it, but he knows like the ins and outs of coffee machines. Like you give him like a scrap coffee machine that like broken, he'll figure out a way to make a use out of it, or like, so it's pretty interesting to see people like that. And like, for me, because I come from a software background, it's like so hard, well, not hard, but it's just like different for me to um put my hands in something more physical, like a coffee machine, or like the
Yeah,
mechanics
because
of it.
that's more hardware than software. Like
Exactly.
hardware instead of software, yeah.
So already that difference is like, for me, like I just get to appreciate a lot and just understand, oh, like, and it's like the same with, I guess, any traveling experience too, you can say for anyone, like going outside to, I don't know, Bali or like Peru, for example, like some parts of the world that are just that people where people live so differently, you know.
Yeah, but also they live under a different spiritual guideline as well as like a different, like, what is it? Even a different financial system. Because, like, if you think about it, like,
Hmm.
Bali isn't a capitalist, like you said, like how you said Bali. Bali is not a capitalist country. It's like one of the most like peaceful, or mostly peaceful countries out there where you can literally just anyone from like pretty much any walk from life can live there. It doesn't matter. You can literally live off like $20 a day, $20 AUD or USD, whatever. But it's just like it's so freeing compared to more so there's not as much responsibility compared to the more so capitalistic society. I'm just going on.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. Yeah, for sure.
But also, do you reckon that would be
Yeah, you were
um
mentioning how Bali, how so different it was compared to here and like the, you know, the West in general, like capitalistic society. There's no responsibility.
not really? Well, the bills are cheap. All you got to do is all you got to do is just hustle and open up like a little food shop.
Yeah,
Obviously, they're probably working harder, but also it's like how the rupees and that sort of stuff are so minimalized compared to are so inflated.
I see.
Yeah, I was gonna have a point on that.
Yeah, sure, you can go ahead. I
Just go
mean,
back.
yeah, what's up?
No, let's go back to just go back to your previous one. We'll just cut
Yeah,
out like 5 minutes.
yeah. One thing to connect to that, like what you mentioned about Bali, is the fact is like these countries, like I think the majority of the people living there are kind of like just go by, like at least in Morocco, but I don't know about Bali, but in Morocco is like we just we're the real feeling of like feeling free and like you kind of have you feel less pressure from society to, you know, up to small decisions that you make that can cost like whatever, how many thousands or like even small, like even a couple $100 per day.
Or
Like,
millions or something. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Over there, it's like there's no such thing as like you make a decision, you have to pay for it, you know? So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah,
It's less of a punishing society.
yeah, you can look at it that way. You can look at it that way, yeah, for sure. The way I like to see it is like, I mean, in Morocco, there's because of the way it's made, like the kingdom of Morocco is like seen as like the commander of the believers when you translate it from Arabic, or basically the leader of like believers. And believers include like Christians, Jews, and Muslims, and or any other kind of like believing people, like people who believe in God, believe in angels, like they have like this common faith. So like that's how it's seen in Morocco, and like fact is like all you're really paying is God at the end of the day when you're living there. Like that whole kingdom is just like, yeah, you don't know, you don't owe anything to anyone. Like you know you owe everything to God for sure. And
Yeah.
then like the way you earn yourself up is basically gonna happen solely through him. So it's like, okay, so you're responsible towards your parents, you're responsible towards your family. When people start seeing that, you start earning their respect, and then people are gonna be like, oh, this person is, they have like a bright future. They're really like, and then they'll start giving you opportunities from the looks, from the way I see it. But sometimes there's a lot of corruption there. There's obviously people that are evil. There's people are going to do things that are going to like, it's like you're cutting corners, you're doing like, yeah, so there's also that, but that's also like universal, that's like everywhere, right? It's like
Yeah.
wherever you see, okay, there's you guys kind of like, you're gonna put God first, but you're also gonna have people out there that are gonna, you know, play the devil's game and like kind of like mess you up because you see, oh yeah, this guy has like so much going for him. Maybe it's like jealousy, maybe it's like an evil eye, stuff like that. But that happens. It's just life, right? And that's like so universal, like across, and not just in Morocco, but I would say even like the West too. Sometimes you see people Like when like you're gonna look at it from a monetizable, measurable, quantized, all of that. But like deep down, there's if you really ask people, you're gonna tap into like, oh shit, like when they, for example, they're in debt or something happened, like whatever the worst possible case scenario, they lost their job, they lost their their partner, their family, they become sick, that kind of thing. They end up at, like either in a hospital or jail or something like that. Like you'll see like things that are there are things that they don't control. Like it's only up to God to control, right? And they're just going
Yeah.
through it. They're going through life. They're being tested with patience. They're being tested with, you know, endurance and like how well they can, keep themselves together in that situation. And yeah, that's kind of like something that I learned a lot from my experience in Morocco, not just like my 2 weeks there, but when I actually spent like some time living there, from before the 2 weeks. And
Yeah.
that's actually something that was like, for me, it was super, super like resolving. Like I think I mentioned this last week, right? Where it's like I actually tried living there at one point. I actually tried living there and it didn't like, I couldn't because I was just so wired to how things work here.
Yeah. So westernized.
Exactly. So there's no way, like you take someone who grew up and was raised here, put him in Morocco, he's gonna get sick. Like that's what happened to me, literally.
Do you
So it's
reckon
like
you probably got sick from the amount of like, just because you said it's more of a spiritual currency there, you're not used to that much of like a spiritual impact, or would it be just a variety of other factors?
it was a variety of other factors. Well, spiritual is like obviously the number one factor why I moved there, why I
Yeah,
wanted to live there,
I
because I
know, but I
felt
mean,
that.
but it's like so heavy. It's like you got like an extra weight on your shoulders to spiritually act up, spiritually
Exactly.
go more towards the guidelines compared to the West, where it's just you're paying physical cash for like if you speed, if you park, like parking fines, that sort of stuff.
Everything is price tagged, right? That's
Yeah,
another thing. So over there, you don't find price tags like a lot of the times. You just find people selling stuff, and then you have to actually ask them the price, and then it just right away it just like encourages bargaining.
yeah,
So it's like how much value the customer sees in the product versus how much the owner wants to sell it for. And there's always that dynamic in Morocco or any like country. I would say that like you see that where there's no price tag, right? You
yeah,
just have to like guess, okay, what do you think the value is?
yeah,
So yeah, going there, like going back to that and kind of like the spiritual journey, you kind of, it was like, for me it was like finally start like opening, like officially opening that door, that spiritual door to like to Moroccan, like the Moroccan like cosmic dimension and how they were trying to see things at the time, and like combining a lot of like knowledge gained, like not just I would say from the Islamic point of view, but even before that, like when you had Christians at the time and the Jews, like kind of like seeing like from their point of view, because in Morocco there was a time where Christians, Jews, Muslims, and like other people from other faiths that were non-believers or they didn't even know about these beliefs were just living together peacefully, right?
yeah,
So just looking at it from that point of view and just, okay, you have to appreciate differences. You have to appreciate, because a lot of another thing here is like you find people in the West that feel like the problem is religion, right? The problem is, oh yeah, like religion is like the thing that wants people to cause divide and cause wars and all that. But like another perspective is, well, a lot of other people are saying no, it's if you didn't have some kind of organized, structured way of looking at life from like, okay, you put God first and then you put, whatever he had, like his creations before us, and then like kind of looking at it from that point of view and like just that structure, and then just breaking it down to like everyday life and just structuring your life that way, your day to day. It's like you see like the importance of religion, you see the importance of, you know, having like some kind of doctrine. Like you can't just ignore people who came before you that already like did so much to put these things, like to reveal these things. And you know, like the prophet, you know, peace be upon him, and people before that, you know, like Jesus, Moses, Abraham, all these people that came before us. And they these were people, they were messengers, you know, like just these things that like sometimes we take these things for granted every day. We don't even look at it, but like we get lost. You would say you get lost in the sauce. For us, it's like you lose kind of like consciousness, you lose focus, you know, you lose awareness, you kind of lose like purpose. That's like a normal thing for a human being, because we're not perfect. We're not, you know, we were created weak, right? We had like some defects, and that's normal. That's part of being a human being, you know. And these are like reflections, you know, these are kind of experiences that I had that went deep through me when I was there those 2 weeks. And yeah, just yeah, that's pretty much it, you know. Like what can I say? It was the impact was in like I know some days I wake up and I go back to sleep and it's like it's a normal day. But like I know that someday in the future it's going to ring another, like it's going to ring another kind of bell, like that's gonna, like it's gonna ripple, you know, through me again. It's gonna be like, oh yeah, okay, there's, and then you gotta like you realign back on your story, on your focus, on your purpose again, you know.
Yeah. Also, what do you mean? Can you just put more clarity to ripple through? Like, you know how you said it's just like one day you're going to hear like the like metaphorical bell chime or like the ripple happen. Can you expand a bit more on that?
Yeah. It's like every day, like I mean, well, for me at least, just my everyday routine. You know, waking up, going to work, taking care of my physical, mental, spiritual, like going to the gym, making sure I'm eating well, eating on time, I'm sleeping on time, waking up on time. You know, praying on time. All of those things. That you just have to go through the like kind of like your obligatory tasks, like to keep you in check. Your mind gets preoccupied with like worldly things, right? Like, you
Like
know,
the
making
news
money.
and yeah.
Exactly. But then you kind of don't see like, well, you lose track of the focus of like your higher purpose or your higher goal, or like what you were destined to be on earth, right?
Because you're
So like
distracted by entertainment. Yeah.
you're distracted by not just, well, it's not just, well, entertainment is part of it. Like technically we need that, because or else it's like you're choking a human being, right? Like if it weren't for like, for example, certain entertainment industries, you probably have like men out there that are just like going savage, like just rage, you know, like on beastly, like whatever, you know, like there's certain things like, you know,
But then
where
doesn't
we
that
are.
come straight back to emotional control?
Yeah, it comes straight back to it,
And
right? It
shouldn't
does
they
come
also,
back.
as a man, have the capability to control themselves and also to look after the others instead of them just going like AWire?
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
But
But what
I
I'm
was just
saying
curious
is,
on that because you
yeah.
just said other like entertainment industry. So I was just like, what's your thought process for this?
Mhm.
Like, obviously, like how we've seen like more so men act like in the past, and then we can just compare and yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's certain like things I would say I see the entertainment industry like at this point in my life, I kind of see it as a drug, but not in a bad way, not in a sense where it's like for example TikTok or YouTube or you know Twitch. I used to
TikTok's
watch.
like worse than probably worse than cocaine for like a. It's probably worse for cocaine just because of the amount of users that can use it at such an early age.
Yeah, definitely,
But also, you could
100%.
say the same thing for Twitch because the amount of like almost like pornographic stuff that's on Twitch that
Yeah,
people
it's
can just get
insane.
away with. Yeah. So you could also see that as like a multi-layered drug as well. Like obviously you
Yeah,
see
definitely,
Instagram as well. It's all just
definitely.
like the sex industry. It's all like that everyone's just like selling sex these days.
Yeah, it's like short circuiting. You could say it, definitely. It's short circuiting your build path, your growth path. As
Yeah,
a
and
man, for
stunting your
sure, definitely.
dopamine. Yeah, stunting your dopaminergic system.
Exactly. But what I was saying is like to kind of control like our manly, like you could say, like if you like for example we said we have to control ourselves, control like our like temper, which is like the number one thing that we have that kind of measures our strength, as men. It's like how well we can control that temper. And like, oh yeah, okay, that's I didn't see that. Okay, but yeah, that I don't know why the iPhone does that. It's whatever. I just
Anyway, going back to
figured
it.
it out. Yeah, going back to that, where I was is basically you're maintaining your system while also seeing like these effects of like the entertainment industry and like whatever came after it, right? Like to kind of it does push technically those things. If you really look at it, it does push the technology. It does push ourselves to move forward. But there's a balance. There's a balance that we as men have to be responsible for ourselves and then for our families, right? And
Yeah,
then like to build like the best kind of like family, the best children. There's always going to be an ideal in our mind, right? Like you kind of remove entertainment, trying to like maintain, or dose off TikTok, dose off, the TV, or dose off, but there's only so much you can do because when you're with your wife or your partner, like she's going to have these urges too that kind of go beyond like for men because we're created different compared to women, right?
yeah.
So like
Biologically,
there's so much
way
there's so
worse.
much biologically way different. Exactly. Like our cycle, you can say is like a 24-hour cycle, whereas a
Yeah,
woman is like 28 days.
yeah,
You see, so it's like that whole like just the fact that we go that fast compared to a woman is insane. Like in terms of our mood swings and our behaviors and whatnot, hormones, etc. So it's like
yeah.
there's one point that like obviously controlling yourself spiritually, physically, mentally, maintaining that everyday balance, waking up on time, whatever. But then when the partner comes along, that's a whole other scenario. That's like now you controlled yourself. Now you got to figure out how to balance that with someone else. That's completely different biologically, mentally, physically, emotionally, you know?
Yeah.
So like then you're like, okay, now okay, entertainment, but you still have to dose it, right? But can't even say that to someone. Like imagine saying that to your partner, be like, oh yeah, I gotta dose like how much TikTok I gotta watch. That's just gonna
Yeah,
be
but
looking at you like,
that's more of
are
like
you
that's more like a personal thing than what she's got to reflect on.
exactly?
She's not taking
That's another
responsibility in that
thing.
action.
That's another thing I was gonna talk about. Is like when you are with that partner, most of the time you're just giving advice. You can't really tell them, command them, okay, this is, and you're controlling every part of her. Like you can't do that.
No,
You just have to give like simple advice, caring advice, and then like you just live your life kind of like independently. I would say, like when it comes
I
to
say
mental.
she's way more dependent on you than what you are on her.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like a full time job.
I don't like to see it as a job because
No, 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 it's not. But I'm just saying, like, it's full time. You've got to pay attention to her emotional needs. You've got to regulate her. You've got to make sure she's like happy enough. You've got to like bring her
yeah,
places. It's like the amount of hours it takes. It's like a full time job.
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's your whole life, so
Yeah,
it goes back to okay, now how much of a man can you be? How much focus can you put in on yourself and on her? And like
yeah,
balancing that, just maintaining health. But she also has like her role to play, right? There's
yeah.
also the rights of like, like she has to give you your rights too. Like she has to take care of you. She can't just like just step on you and like, regardless of your health. Like imagine you spending so much time living by yourself and maintaining yourself, taking care of your health, your physique, your mental, your physical, your emotional, your spiritual. And then when she comes along, she just destroys all of that. You can't have that too. So there's also
Well, that
like
has
that
happened.
balance.
That's a common thing in the West, though. unfortunately.
You see, that's another episode right there. Because like I remember I told you this, like I was kind of like testing myself going into like a Western relationship. Like I told you this before. I've never
Yeah.
I'm already super like if you took my old self, I would never do this stuff. But like because I was like obviously now I'm like kind of like circumstances, I'm forced to work here in Montreal and living single obviously, and like dealing with all these things like for the first time. Whereas in the West it's like a common thing for a man to kind of step out at the age of 18. You know, like the parents just like, you know, just tell them that that's it, you're an adult. But like for
Yeah,
me,
welcome to
like
the real
growing up,
world.
yeah, exactly. For me, growing up like in a, you know, Muslim family and everything, it's completely different. Like you don't want that. Like that's something you don't even want. And not just my family. Like there's some like Christian, like super like traditional ones that I know here in Montreal that were like would never let their son move out for a job or for anything, you know, for even studying. So it's like it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, but also it's
But
family. It's the tightest bond that you're going to get.
exactly. And if the family does really well, like there's no really point to moving out, right? Like you're just gonna be destroying parts of the individuals that are part of that family, right? Or you're going to be like hurting them in a way, and that's not good.
You'll fracture their roles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's another way you could see it. But honestly, like sometimes it's just circumstances and you have to be really patient to kind of build yourself as a man. Sometimes you just, I mean, for a man, I think it's completely normal to go move out there by yourself, being like a lone wolf per se, you know, like you've probably heard of that.
Yeah. But also the lone wolf doesn't survive unless they've got a group of team or unless they've got mentors and, as I said, or a team.
Exactly. That's 100%. Like, I definitely. Like after what 2 years now, I kind of have like a good solid group of friends here. Like I can like rely on definitely if I need a call or a ride or even some food. Like I know, you know, like for the time being they can help me out, and then I'll like pay them back later. And I remember doing this effort initially when I moved in here too, like kind of like meeting with like people older than me,
Yeah.
like men who are like about to retire, and then asking them for advice and seeing how they invest their money, like how they look at the market, the stock market, all of that, or even some of them like are a bit more traditional. They didn't know about crypto, but still seeing their point of view and like where they are now, you know, it's like you kind of project yourself.
I was going to say it wouldn't really matter anyway because the S&P 500 as a reflection of the stock market is also highly correlated with Bitcoin anyway, and and every other cryptocurrency is just is like a more riskier version of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
like even if you had nothing to do
at
with
this
crypto,
point,
it'd
because
still be using
yeah,
it.
yeah, I mean, I would say today for sure because how Bitcoin is like where it's at right now, valued and everything, it's insane.
100K USD as we speak.
Talking about Bitcoin, I actually have like some super cool insights that I've got when I was in my Morocco trip. Was the people that I met, like especially this one guy, he's originally from the US. He was telling me how they knew that these kind of crypto e-currencies were going to happen way back because they actually tried doing that as a group like in the year 2000 or before then. They
Yeah,
try to create something called like the dinar. Dinar is like, yeah, it's basically like one of the currencies from like Saudi Arabia and stuff. But dinar is like they try to kind of like find out a way to send money online on like over, like kind of like a wire transfer in a way. And
yeah,
it kind of it did work out initially because the money was sent, and then they kind of kept track. The guy who received it like was able to safe store it, and then after that, like later on they decided like they're not going to go on the virtual side of it, like or on the kind of like wire transfer side of it. They said, you know what, we're just going to invest in like the physical stuff, so like physical commodities, like silver, gold, and all that stuff. And then later on, like what's crazy is like later on after that, the 2008 financial crisis happened, and then like everything went down. Like the banks were crazy, and that just upped the value of gold like crazy. Because what
Yeah.
banks do now is like they take all like the real stuff, like real assets like gold, silver, they store it, and then they obviously print out, like whatever, cash.
Well, that's what they were
Right.
designed to do. Because of inflation, that's obviously not happening, and the debt black hole, as I like to call it.
Mhm. Yeah, for
We
sure.
can go on that in a later episode. We can go on it in a later episode. I was just saying that's also why I think storing Bitcoin is more valuable than gold, because they can't legally take your Bitcoin away because it's not technically a physical asset. Even though it's harder, it's like more hard money than cash.
I see. Yeah, it's like right now everything's flipped. You can see, like everything's kind of flipped. But
Yeah,
it's like only a
because there's
matter of
only a
time
limited
before it's like,
supply.
yeah, but it's only a matter of time. Like let's say, all of what the internet's based on and all of what like all of that's like the bank's kind of still relying on something out there.